from PRX.
Hey everybody, this is Scoots. This is an all intro episode. We run these kind of on long weekends every once in a while. They're a listener favorite for a lot of listeners, but we also put out two all intro episodes on Sleep With Me Plus for Boar Besties and Boar Friends. And there's big news because I reached out to the Boar Friends and the Boar Besties, and we're upgrading the all intros to be similar to this one, where there's only the theme music only plays once during the first episode. So if you love all intros, you get a feed, a podcast, like a podcast, I guess, like on Sleep With Me Plus with just all intros and all night episodes, which are 4 to 8 hour compilations. And that's the same on Patreons for the Boar Friends and the Boar Besties. But then Boar Buds on Sleep With Me Plus, you still get these episodes like this one as all intro with ad-free and your ad-free full episode feed, as well as in your story-only feed, which is kind of funny. So anyway, thanks so much for listening. If you support the show, I really appreciate it. And I hope you enjoy this all intro episode. If not, there's plenty of other stuff out there. But at least this one doesn't have any theme music after the first one. Thanks and good night. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and friends beyond the binary. It's time for the podcaster with the creaky, dulcet tones. That most people say, what, creaky, dulcet tones? What does that even mean? And I'm not sure that's for me. And I say, well, those are good points. Let me see how we do. Because really what I'm here to do is not ever get to the point or just barely approach a point and then go around it. All to keep you company, take your mind off stuff, and help you fall asleep, because it's time for Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. All right, everybody, I want to thank Claritin, tonight's sponsor, for supporting this episode and provide me with some samples. You know, I suffer from seasonal allergies. Not only do they get in the way of me living my life, they get in the way of me making this podcast to put you to sleep. Because when those allergies are really kicking in, I sound weird and I do not feel good at all. Luckily, for those of us who live with the symptoms of allergies, we can live Claritin Clear with Claritin D. The double action combination of prescription strength allergy medicine and the best decongestant available relieves sneezing, a runny nose, itchy and watery eyes, an itchy nose and throat, and sinus congestion and pressure with ease. And that's what I like about Claritin D. It covers all those bases. For me, I love the relief from the runny nose and the sinus pressure. Holy cow. Those two things combined, I'm like the worst two symptoms I have at the exact same time. So I love the relief Claritin brings. And I've been taking Claritin D this spring for this allergy season. And it's been a game changer because I can go out on my runs and on my trail runs and not have to worry about, am I going to be able to record the podcast tomorrow? Because my nose is running and my sinuses are clogged. Ready to live life as if you don't have allergies? It's time to live Claritin Clear. Fast and powerful relief is just a quick trip away. Find Claritin D at the pharmacy counter. Ask for Claritin D at your local pharmacy counter. You don't even need a prescription. Go to Claritin.com right now for a discount so you can live Claritin Clear. Use as directed. Thanks, everybody. Support for Sleep With Me comes from Odoo. What is Odoo? Well, Odoo is a lot of things. Odoo is award-winning management software. Odoo is total control of your entire company in one place. Odoo is a suite of fully integrated applications for CRM, accounting, sales, HR, inventory, manufacturing, and everything in between. Basically, Odoo is what your business needs to succeed. So if you're ready to get more done in less time, visit odoo.com/withme. That's odoo.com/withme. Odoo, business management made simple. All right, but Scoots here, and this is where I talk about, like, supporting the show. So this is really only for regular listeners. If you count on Sleep With Me or you use Sleep With Me on a regular basis, you're a long-term listener. Like, does Sleep With Me do anything unique for you, right? Is it a part of your life and it's a unique way? Like when you just discovered the show or it started helping you, you're like, wow, I had no idea this existed, but I was looking for it. And then does it provide something for you? Is it unique and does it provide does it do anything for you? Like, does it help you fall asleep or take your mind off of stuff so you could fall asleep? Or does it keep you company? Does it distract you during the day? So is it unique or somewhat unique? And does it do anything for you? If the answers are yes to both of those, like how much is that, is that worth anything to you? How much are those things, the unique part and whatever it does for you, worth to you? But the other question is like, if Sleep With Me went away, like what would you be willing, like would that change what it's worth to you? Would it change the value proposition? But to get it back, oh yeah, I'd pay $50 a month and you don't even have a tier at that level. So just think about that. But if any of that resonates with you, don't wait. We really are in a position now where for at least a time, I'm going to have to kind of really work hard to get more people involved in supporting the show. We have the listeners. It's just getting the attention of enough listeners, a small percentage of people, but people that are said, oh, okay, I'll do it now. You just go to sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus and sign up, support the show. Even if you're not sure, sign up for, all the trials are 7 days and then you could change your mind. But at least then you've done something. You said, yes, it's unique. Yes, it really means something to me. Yes, it does something for me. And no, I don't want to wait. Like, I don't want it to go away. So thanks. Think about that. sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus, sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. Hey, everybody. It's time for the Sleepy Supporter Zone. This may be the last Sleepy Supporter Zone you hear. We'll probably be doing something new in the future. Like some of you may know what's going on behind the scenes, but yeah, don't worry. There'll still be chances to celebrate those people who take action to support the show so everybody can enjoy it. It's just this current iteration is not working and just not possible, moving forward. So we'll figure that out. But it is time for the Sleepy Supporter Zone. And I want to talk about two things you could support, and people I support. One is, the podcast Calm History by my friend, Craig and Harris. And if you want to learn more about fascinating moments in history in the most relaxing way possible, you got to check out Calm History. Each episode is narrated in a calm voice, and that can help you relax during the day or as you're getting ready for bed or help you fall asleep. But it's just a really cool idea. You could hear about famous explorers, leaders, inventions, civilizations, ancient wonders, even a 6-part series about the Titanic. And all you need to do is search in your podcast player for Calm History or use calmhistory.com. That link will be in our show notes. So check that out. Also, a lot of you know, one of our editors who's been working with the show for a long time made the journey over the Rainbow Bridge to the big farm in the sky where all the dogs are so happy to be spending time with him and everybody else out there enjoying their time in the big farm. And that's Karl W., the legend. And so we've been saying, hey, if you want to support all the work Karl did to help everybody fall asleep, and you want to do something in his memory, we're going to have links to 2 of the organizations Karl supported, spent a lot of time supporting in action, being a part of positive change, and that's Sean Casey Animal Rescue and New York City Mesh. So check out those organizations, consider supporting them. And that's the end of the Sleepy Supporter Zone. Oh, Mystery Bard, a lot of people, including the legend Karl W., help out on this show. Who are they?
Chris Posty Poster Son sounds like an earful. Wrote the theme song. Edits episodes. Karl W. the legend. Also edits episodes. Ashley, Kenny, Scotty, Jennifer. Runner. Eric and the team at Astound are on the website. I am the Mystery Bard. I do the lullabies, yeah. I do commissions at jonathanmann.net. I'll write a song for you. Any reason at all. You can tell me the story and I'll make it personal. You see the kindness shine straight on through when the listeners form their own Facebook group. Keith, Stacy, Sarah, Julie, and Jennifer. These are your moderators. Get support, dear Scooter, on Patreon. Buy the merch and support the sponsors. You can find anything you want at sleepwithmepodcast.com. And we're so proud that we could dance. Rusty Biscuit, Lois, Hannah like banana. Leah does the transcripts.
Thanks, Mystery Bard. Don't forget, if you want to get sleep phones, sleepwithmepodcast.com/sleep phones, the best way to do that. If you use Sleep With Me, you'll get $5 off on checkout. And you got to use our link to get the Sleep With Me branded sleep phones with that Sleep With Me swagger. So thanks, everybody. And what do you say we slow it down and get on with the show? Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you can set aside whatever's keeping you awake, whether it's thoughts, things you're thinking about on your mind. Because believe it or not, even as I'm talking, my mind is constantly tapping me on my shoulder with things to talk to me about. So if it's things on your mind keeping you up, believe me, not only it's a pretty steady, I wouldn't say it's a steady it's a steady flow of distraction from my mind. But it could be thoughts, it could be feelings, like emotions coming up for you, or that remnants, the feelings. They're there. So some, varying degrees of, you know what I'm saying. Physical sensations, those could be there too. So whatever's keeping you awake, it could be any of those broader things. It could be something very specific, like your work shift and when you sleep, or a change in your schedule or your routine, or someone that you share a room with traveling, or snoring. Holy moly! You call it like you say, oh, I don't snore. I just breathe loudly while I'm sleeping. And you say, well, I'm glad you're sound asleep because I'm here. Because I'm here to help the other side of the bed over here. Am I right? But whatever it is that's keeping you awake, what I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place, or a place that feels safe, where you can say, "Ooh," and you feel your shoulders relax a little bit. Here, like, I'm not kidding. I mean, in this situation, I'm not worried about posture, but believe me, when I'm recording the show, there's no posture rules here. I won't posture about, there's a lot of posturing about posture. And I mean, sure, during the day, or, when we're not talking about creating a safe place, go ahead, have at it. Posture about posture. I guess here's the thing, when you're posturing, you could be standing on a soapbox, right? Especially if you're posturing about posturing. And I imagine is that if you're standing on a soapbox, unless it's some sort of, a high-end soapbox you purchased, that's like this is a version of a soapbox, modernized, super, enforced. I can't imagine that a soapbox is if you just grabbed a soapbox, you say, well, I got, there's no, I want to raise up so I can project my voice. People can make eye contact with me as I speak. I can make eye contact with them. They could see my gestures. They could get a feel for my tone and my body language. So I'm going to grab this soapbox here. I don't know. I mean, even if you brought your own soapbox from home, it would probably be, you'd probably have to have, what I'm saying, I guess, in a long, meandering way, so you'd probably have to have pretty good posture to stand on that. So maybe we'll come back to that. But so whatever you're keeping you awake, I'm going to try to create a safe place where you can set that aside. What I'm going to attempt to do, I said that stuff. What I'm going to do, though, one of my methods you just witnessed. Another one is to send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'm going to use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones. You could say, what sound does a soapbox in use make? And you'd say, well, if you had a microphone just on the soapbox, underneath it, you'd probably say creaky, dulcet tones it would make. Unless it's one of those, this is a freshly, because you say that's not a good idea. You're going to freshly oil a soapbox and then you're going to stand on it? No, not a good idea, Junior. No, not a good idea. Hey, let's get back to the intro. So if you're new, you may already be confused. And believe it or not, eventually you'll see that as a good thing. But when you first get here, this show is very, very different from normal podcasts. A couple of things that make it different is, well, there's I don't know. I wish I could, it would probably be shorter. The intro would be much shorter if I said the things that are similar. This is audio with talking. So that's similar to normal podcasts. But a few things that make it different. One is expectations. Like your expectations this may be different than what you expected. And that is very normal to feel that way. And not like I'm saying that because that's most listeners' experience. You get here, you say, what in the heck? Was he just talking about soapboxes for 5 minutes and posture? I'm not sure did he ever get back to his point? And that's a pretty I thought this episode was about Doctor Who. And you say, yeah, that's a very normal reaction. Some reactions are stronger because you say, what is this? This is supposed to put me to sleep. Really? And I say that without a touch of what is that thing called? The thing that people use, sarcasm, because that is a very normal, a skeptical response to something that's supposed to put you to sleep, especially if you've been trying, as I have in the past for years and years and years, to find something to put you to sleep. Why wouldn't you be doubtful? So remember that. The second thing is it takes 2 or 3 tries to get used to this show. And I just say that because that's what majority of listener feedback that's come in over the past, probably, might be around episode 900 or something or past 900. So those are normal things. The other things for a non-normal, this is not a normal podcast. The other things that can throw listeners off is, this is a podcast. Well, you may have figured this out already. You just barely listen to it because it barely makes any sense. I barely get to the point. So you could just barely kind of listen, like also almost like in a loose way, like water flowing through your hands. Like occasionally you could cup it and look at it, but eventually it's going to, flow away. So just barely listen to me. That's different than most podcasts. Most podcasts, I want you to listen to it. This is also different than most sleep podcasts or sleep audio in the fact that I'm more here to keep you company as you fall asleep than really to put you to sleep. To be honest, I'm just your bore friend. Or you could say, I'm your bore for hire. That could be my new show on whatever channel we one day invent, bore for hire. Actually, we've done episodes like that. But like where I come over and I just talk and about, nonsense until you fall asleep. So this is a podcast that doesn't need to be listened to. And it's a sleep podcast. It's kind of here to barely put you to sleep and just keep you company. But if you can't sleep, the reason the shows are about an hour, 1, to give you plenty of time to drift off so you don't got to worry about it. And then 2, if you can't sleep or you wake up and you need me again, I'll be here. Because there's some listeners that just can't sleep, and I want to be here to keep you company too. So that's really how I view my job, is to keep you company whether you're awake or asleep, to create a safe, semi-distracting place where you could rest. So there's even more things that are different that throw new listeners off. So let me get to those. Regular listeners, welcome back. But we have never talked about soapboxes and posture before, so I'm glad you're here too. Structurally, what to expect. The show is structured kind of similar to podcasts, but a little bit different. Starts off with a greeting. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends beyond the binary, trees and multiforms, in this case, for your Whovians. Then, would a Whovian also be someone that studies the Who's from, like, if the Who's were a real thing? Would you be, is a Whovian a fan of Who's or a person that studies Who's? I don't know. I heard that word. I said, I want to work Whovian in at some point. It feels wonderful to say it, Whovian. So the show starts off with a greeting. So you feel welcome. Then there's business. That's how we keep the show coming out twice a week on a regular basis, so 4 p.m. Pacific time. Sundays and Wednesdays for 7, 8 years, over 900 episodes. So that's the business. Then there's an intro. So the business kind of throws some people off, but that's really not that much time. And then the intro is a lot of time. Like normally you'd say, okay, 4 minutes of business, 4 minutes of intro, then get to the bedtime story. That would be, at the Fresh Bedcast or something. I don't know. But for this show, the intro it serves two purposes. Three purposes. One, it gives you an idea of what to expect, and I try to go over things for the new listener. The second purpose is that I'm not really good at getting to the point, so it kind of fits my purpose, which is just trying to be here with you to keep you company and not put on airs or posture like, oh, I'm like the sleep, like I'm the sleep. Did I say, whatever I say, 1, 2, 3. Go to sleep, bada bee. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing is for regular listeners, they kind of figure it out as they start to listen to the show, and maybe they change their relationship with the show over the years. But for a lot of listeners, 2% of listeners start the show 20 minutes. And then another, 1 or 2% of listeners support the show on Patreon, and some percentage of those listeners listen to story-only episodes. But the rest of the listeners, they use the intro in a bunch of different ways. But the intro can be used in so many ways because it's here, one, to make you feel welcome and to take your mind off of stuff. But like a lot of people I hear from, they either start the podcast as they're getting ready for bed or as they just got in bed, as they're beginning their wind down routine, or at the second stage of their wind down routine when they're getting in bed, turning out the lights and pressing play. And so the intro gives you a way to ease into bedtime, whether it's as a part of your bedtime routine, or it's after your bedtime routine, or it's even like a part of your wind down routine, or your skincare routine, or your evening hobby that you chill out to. Whatever it is, that's like why part of the reason the intro is so long is because for me and a lot of the listeners that this podcast does work for, a lot of the stuff that's just supposed to work right away, or, oh, hey, it should work. That's a common thing we experience, right? You say, well, it should work. The blinds, make your room cool and dark. That should work. You say, well, it kind of works. What about breathing? Have you tried breathing? Yeah, of course. Well, it should work if and I say, okay, enough of that, because I got listeners here. I think that's like my harumph brain or something. I guess that's my shoulder. I'd like to put the shoulder somewhere that rhymes with that. That's why the intro is so long. Because to ease you into bedtime, you can always skip it, but give it a few tries and see how it goes. Because a lot of listeners, some people fall asleep during the intro. Some people fall asleep right away during the intro after they've been using the show for a while. So that's the intro. Then there's some business. That's just the structure of the podcast. Then there'll be Doctor Who. We'll talk about a Doctor Who episode in a way that you'll never recognize it. You'll say, that was a Doctor Who episode? I don't know. I don't remember that one. Or if you've never seen Doctor Who, first of all, right now we're talking about the David Tennant Doctor Who. I don't know which number that is, but you say, well, he's pretty delightful. So, yeah, I could listen to you talk about, okay. But I don't know that show. You say, oh, don't worry about it. You won't, so, I'll just go off topic anyway. Then there's some thank yous at the end of the show. So that's the structure of the show, kind of things to know before you listen. The reason I make the show, one, I've been there. Tossing and turning, mind racing trouble, getting to sleep trouble, staying asleep, all those things I'm familiar with. I'm strong, like whatever the muscle is that shoulds you, oh boy, is that muscle strong. I'm like I'm a bodybuilder with, what is it? What are those things called? I'm trying to think, I call them brain bots, but I was trying to think of some of the actual professional words I've heard for them. Like, They say, like, I know one word. Sounds a little bit harsh, but it's actually a kind word. You say maladaptive. All those maladaptive parts of me. If there was any Olympic events for maladaptive, like the maladaptive muscle bodybuilder, you see, well, every maladaptive part in his mind and his somatic system. You see, how did you build up? I see, it's just like that's the way I was. So I had, it's some sort of. That's why I make a sleep podcast. So I did lean in, and eventually, I mean, this is actually this is why I make the show. I've readapted those things, and I have embraced them. Not totally in my personal life, but here on the show, I can cuddle up my maladaptive parts and put their strong things to work and say, "Hey, I know you used to should everybody about the." That just sounds funny saying that because it sounds so similar to something else. But now we're here to help. So I've been there, and the reason I want to help is because also, just like my maladaptive parts deserve a chance to unwind and be respected. You do too. You deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve a place you could rest and you could flourish and live your life. And that's what I hope to provide for those of you I can. So that's why I'm here. That's why I make the show. I guess there's other things that randomly come up. Like my brain naturally wonders what your posture is like on a soapbox. And wonders if it's better, like if they say, well, it probably has to be pretty good if you're standing on it. I don't think there could be any disagreement. You could slouch, they'd say, oh boy. But I would say unless, because you think of a milk crate, right? Those are the things, those aren't even around very much anymore. But a milk crate was like the plastic milk crates that you'd see people moving in. I think it was probably the last time you'd seen one, maybe. Even those aren't exactly sturdy. And we're talking about Soapbox, like a wooden box that maybe soap came in. I have no idea. I'm not talking about a cardboard box. This is an allusion to an imaginary time in history that lives within my mind. So, I don't know. Here's what I can tell you. I'm glad you're here. This podcast does not work for everybody, but for the majority of the people it works for, they gave it 2 or 3 tries. And I really want to help, so give it 2 or 3 tries. I mean, unless you're 100%, like usually if you made it this far, there's a chance the podcast is going to help you if you listen 2 or 3 times. The people that it definitely didn't work for, they already stopped listening after like minute 4 to 7 and started writing me. So give it a few tries, see how it goes. I'm really glad you're here. I work very hard. I yearn and I strive. I really want to help you fall asleep. Thanks again for coming by. And here's a couple of ways we're able to bring this podcast twice a week. Thanks. All right, everybody. I want to thank Claritin, tonight's sponsor, for supporting this episode and provide me with some samples. You know, I suffer from seasonal allergies. Not only do they get in the way of me living my life, they get in the way of me making this podcast to put you to sleep. Because when those allergies are really kicking in, I sound weird and I do not feel good at all. Luckily, for those of us who live with the symptoms of allergies, we can live Claritin Clear with Claritin D, the double action combination of prescription strength allergy medicine and the best decongestant available. Relieves sneezing, a runny nose, itchy and watery eyes, an itchy nose and throat, and sinus congestion and pressure with ease. And that's what I like about Claritin D. It covers all those bases. For me, I love the relief from the runny nose and the sinus pressure. Holy cow. Those 2 things combined, I'm like the worst 2 symptoms I have at the exact same time. So I love the relief Claritin brings. And I've been taking Claritin D this spring for this allergy season. And it's been a game changer because I can go out on my runs and on my trail runs and not have to worry about, am I going to be able to record the podcast tomorrow? Because my nose is running and my sinuses are clogged. Ready to live life as if you don't have allergies? It's time to live Claritin Clear. Fast and powerful relief is just a quick trip away. Find Claritin D at the pharmacy counter. Ask for Claritin D at your local pharmacy counter. You don't even need a prescription. Go to Claritin.com right now for a discount so you can live Claritin Clear. Use as directed. Thanks, everybody. Sleep With Me is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. What if comparing car insurance rates was as easy as putting on your favorite podcast? With Progressive, it is. Just visit the Progressive website to quote with all the coverages you want. You'll see Progressive's direct rate, then their tool will provide options from other companies so you can compare. All you need to do is choose the rate and coverage you like. Quote today at Progressive.com to join the over 28 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is, repeat myself when it's necessary. What I'm going to attempt to do, though, is create a safe place, and repetition, respect, and saying, well, could you give me a second? I'm going to go back and make myself a little bit clearer, though that's not my forte. My favorite, I've said it before, my favorite forte, Will Forte. I see my use of the word forte, not as good as my love of Will Forte. I'm going to try to create a safe place, whether you're a forte, or you're just fortuitous, or neither. I'm going to try to create a safe place here. I'm smoothing it, I'm patting it, I'm rubbing it down. If MacGruber, I think MacGruber, is it MacGruber? I can't pronounce very many words, but MacGruber, could you, I don't know if MacGruber needs a safe place or MacGruber's friends do. But you'd say, like, if there was if I wrote, I did write MacGruber. I do admit, I did write a MacGruber After Dark novel. But it was trying to be like a little bit romantic too. It was called The Cave Within My Heart. Then I said, that was my initial title. And I said, well, what does it have to do with, how's that MacGrubery, Scoots? And then some part of my brain said, Scoots, are you sure Will Forte played MacGruber? And I say, yeah, I'm pretty sure. But okay, Scoots, what were you saying? I was going to, then I said, countdown to the, I said, you're right. I probably have to brainstorm that title. It was a little bit too romantic. The Cave Within My Heart, But it is a sleep podcast too, so I couldn't say anything like action-packed. Who's MacGruber? Or what does this have to do with the sleep podcast in a safe place? Those are great questions. Let me get to them before I move on. So MacGruber, maybe you've heard of MacGyver. MacGruber was another, like, very similar to MacGyver. But kind of like, I guess we do have a good analogy here. Kind of like a regular podcast would have already gotten to the point. If MacGyver is your regular there's no such thing as a regular run-of-the-mill podcast. That's the best thing about podcasting. There's so much out there, and it's all different. But let's just say that MacGyver was a podcast. MacGyver would be like, okay, well, give me that. Okay, give me a couple of pieces of story there, and I'll put it together in a concise way that works. MacGruber and Scoots, like I would be that, I'd say, well, okay, give me some bubble gum. What are you going to do with the bubble gum? Fix this story issue, Scoots? No, I'm going to chew it. I want to have fresh breath while I fix this. But what was MacGruber? That's what I was trying to explain, not something else. MacGruber's like I don't know if a parody version of a MacGyver, but a less competent MacGyver, but with the heart of MacGyver and the skills of me. Maybe. What does any of that have to do with the podcast or the other thing I was supposed to remember? I don't remember the other thing. But what I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'm going to use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones, pointless meanders, superfluous tangents. I'm going to go off topic. I'm going to get mixed up. I mean, you've already seen that. Pointless meanders, superfluous tangents, and mixed up stuff. All to take your mind off stuff so you can fall asleep. So whatever's keeping you awake, whether it's thoughts. Did I say this already? Thoughts you're thinking about, like things on your mind. Feelings, any feelings coming up for you, physical sensations, changes in schedule or routine. You know, maybe you work a second or third shift. Maybe you're on a break from work, or you're, on call, or maybe you just got, stuff that's keeping you from sleep. Sometimes it's baffling. Yeah, whatever it is, I'm here to take your mind off of that. And that's why I said I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night to do that. Now, a couple of things that in a most MacGruberous way, I don't even know if that's a word, but also now I'm like, wait a second, is MacGruber like the Will Forte character, or was that a character on The Simpsons? I don't know. But so if you're new, a few things to know that you'd say, well, a little late now. I'd say, yep, that's how we do it here. Right on time, barely ever right on time. But a couple of things to know. One, this podcast is not for everybody. So if you're skeptical or doubtful, or you're like, what is with the creaky dulcet tones or pointless meanders? Give it a few tries. And again, the podcast is free. So you could give it a few tries. I'm not even pressuring you to do that, but most listeners, and this is like a pretty steady feedback I get on like a daily basis. They say, hey, it took 2 or 3 tries before I got used to the show and realized it won't ever make any sense. And that's what makes the most sense about it. And then I realized it, then I was like, oh, wait, as soon as I stopped trying to figure out what was going on and accept the fact that it was unfigurable, or, as soon as I accepted you were no MacGyver, which is my first instinct as soon as you opened your mouth, it's funny, my brain said that person is no MacGyver, and I mean either MacGyver, either. And maybe there's been more than 2 MacGyvers. I only know of 2. There's a younger MacGyver who would say is new MacGyver. Maybe, I don't know. And then there's Richard Dean Anderson MacGyver. And then there's MacGruber. And you say, well, you're more like MacGuber. And I'd say like MacUber, like the Uber, MacGuber, I said. Oh, well, yeah, that kind of makes sense. So there's MacGyver, MacGruber, MacGyver 1, MacGyver 2, MacGruber, and I'm MacGuber. And I'm not like a goober. And technically, I'm not sure I can agree to that because I'm not positive what a goober is, because it might be something that's not sleepy. So I got to kind of move on. But if it's something that exists in the world, could we agree to just for now say that term means homemade sparkle slime or slime with the puffy stuff inside? Okay, good. I'm glad we could agree to that. Oh, I'm supposed to be talking about the podcast. You're right. So this podcast is not for everybody, but give it 2 or 3 tries to see how it goes. Oh, because I was saying once the regular listeners realize that I'm much more MacGruber than MacGyver, they said, oh, okay, I get it now. I don't really have to pay attention. He's not going to figure anything out. It would be like that. Like if you said, okay, now give me that. Okay, now give me a bag of jasmine rice. Okay, give me a magnifying glass. Okay, now I need some earmuffs. Okay, hand those. Okay, what are you doing? Oh, let me look closer. Hold on. Do you have a cheese stick? Okay, let me put that in there. And, okay, now, hold on, I need a break. I just get and then I would take a break. But in this case, I'm coming back to you. So give the show a few tries. That was one thing I should have told you like 11 minutes ago. The second thing to know is this podcast you don't need to listen to. That's what I was trying to say that whole time. Also, this isn't really a podcast to put you to sleep. It's here to be here, keep you company, and take your mind off stuff as you fall asleep. So I'm kind of like your bore friend, your bore bestie, your bore bud. I'm here to kind of just take your mind off stuff, be at your side, be your companion. Like, what if MacGruber or MacGyver do they have anyone on that show that goes, okay. Like, I'd just be handing, like, technically that would be my job. Okay. Chopsticks, okay, there you go. Okay. Okay, well, let me look in the bag. Burlap sack, there you go. Okay. Okay, two eyes made out of coal, there you go, you got it. Button nose, the only button nose I see is on you, MacGyver 1. I don't know, is that in term of endearment? So, my job's here to be here to take your mind off stuff, keep you company as you drift off. So, podcasts you don't need to listen to, no pressure to fall asleep. That's why the shows are about an hour. And if you can't sleep or you find yourself you need a break during the day, you want to take a nap, or you just want a little mental escape, this podcast is here for you. Or you wake up during the night. The reason the shows are about an hour is to give you plenty of time to drift off. But if you can't sleep, I'm here to the very end. Like I said, I'm here to keep you company, awake or asleep. So I think one of the things about MacGruber and MacGyver is competence. And then I'm on the other side of competence. Like you'd say, I don't think there's any way you can quibble that MacGyver is highly competent, either MacGyver or either MacGyver. I was just wondering if Richard Dean Anderson was also in that movie, that show Air Puppy or whatever about the helicopter. I think so. Anyway, so where was I? I'm not very competent at getting to the point. I'm confident in my incompetence. I mean, that's the truth. Oh, the other thing, and this is way too late to tell you this, but just in case, like the structure of the show is very different. So most podcasts start off, they do a quick intro, then they probably have some business, and then they do like a setup, and then they might have some business, and then they have the thing. Our show is, I guess, kind of like that. We have a greeting, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends beyond the binary, so everybody would say hello to everybody. Then we do business for a few minutes. Then we have an intro, which goes from like minute 4 or minute 6 to about minute 20, 22. And the intro just kind of goes on like we've been doing tonight, where I kind of get distracted and follow those distractions wherever they're going. And so for the new listener, you could say, what is this? But the regular listener, what it does is it eases you into bedtime, or it gives you a chance to get ready for bed, or to start your wind down routine. Or if you're in bed, it gives you a chance to get comfortable. Your familiar friend Scoots is here. And instead of like an action-packed night of, dreamy hunks like the MacGyvers, or, I mean, talk about a hunk, in my opinion, Will Forte. He's making you laugh and easy on the eyes, I'd say. So, like, instead of that, you say, I don't know what my point was. Instead of that, you say, oh, okay, Scoots is here. I'm just going to kind of barely listen. Yeah, my friend's here to keep me company and not get to the point. I don't have to worry about it. He's just going to go, Instead of like, okay, what are we dealing with here? Okay, we got the ticking clock, MacGruber. We got to figure it out. So, okay, so there's that. And then, I don't know what, so that's the intro. Then there's some business. Then there'll be a story, like a bedtime story. Tonight it'll just be a one-off kind of random thing. And then there's some thank yous and some good nights at the end. So that's the structure of the show. And I think that's kind of everything. The only thing left to tell you is, the reason I make the show. And I make the show, one, because I've been there. I know how it feels. I woke up this morning wicked early, and I couldn't get back to sleep. But I've also have trouble trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep. Tossing and turning, all that stuff I've dealt with. And I know how it feels, and it doesn't feel good to me. And it's nice to have someone there to keep you company and take your mind off of stuff, in my opinion. So I hope I could provide that for you. But more important than that is you. And it's my belief and my knowledge that you deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve a place where you can rest and get away. And I hope I can provide that for you. Now, like I said, it doesn't work for everybody. So you can check out sleepwithmepodcast.com/no thank you for other stuff. But that's really why I'm here, is to see if I can help. So let's see how it goes. Like most listeners say, guess see how it goes 2 or 3 times. Then you realize, it's kind of going nowhere-ish. Somewhere. It's the maps. It's kind of like figuring out one of those mazes that's really complicated, like with a crayon, and you say, well, my crayon is it's one of those, the crayon is wider than the maze. I'd say, well, that's a perfect analogy for sleep with me. Complicated maze where the crayon is wider than the maze. I'm amazed you came up with that, and I can understand it, but it barely makes sense to even me. So I'm glad you're here. I really appreciate you checking the show out, giving me your time, and I really hope I yearn and I strive because I want to help you fall asleep. And here's a couple ways we're able to bring this show for free. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake, whether it's thoughts, things on your mind, thoughts you're thinking about, thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, changes in time or temperature. So let's see, things you're thinking about, repetitive stuff. So things from the past, present, or future. Sometimes my brain repeats itself in podcast intros and at night. Actually, I don't want to get into that, but that is one kind of dreaming I do. I was doing it last night. Repetitive, dreamy problem solving. That is something that doesn't keep me awake. It's like trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep there. But it could be physical sensations, feelings, whatever it is that's keeping you awake. I'd like to take your mind off of that. And let's see. Well, yeah, I'd like to take your mind off that. I'd like to keep you company and help you fall asleep. That's my goal. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm trying to establish a safe place where you feel comfortable, particularly if you're new, or reestablish it if you're a regular listener. And, I'm going to, try to establish that. I'm going to try to smooth it. I'm going to pat it. I'm going to rub it down. I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'm going to use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones, pointless meanders, superfluous tangents, superfluous tangents, send my voice across the deep, dark night. Oh, yeah, repetitive stuff. But I'm really here to keep you company and take your mind off stuff while you fall asleep. If you're new, I guess I'm a little bit, my brain's a little bit foggy. But so here's the thing. If you're new, I'm glad you're here. If you're wondering what's going on, or when I'm going to get to the point or any of that stuff, or you're feeling skeptical or doubtful, welcome. You're in the right place. If you're feeling skeptical, you're in the right place. And, I don't know how many, what the statistics are in skepticism. And you say, well, this is how many things skeptics agree on. They say, well, not much. I'm skeptical about those numbers, Scoots. And I'd say, well, no wonder you're skeptical. I don't even have any numbers. But like one thing that people, they're doubtful. I'm trying to think of a joke and a way to actually tie this in a useful way. But if you're skeptical, I'm skeptical. And many of our regular listeners are not only are skeptical in general, they were skeptical about this podcast and doubtful about it. So if that's your thing, of course you're going to be skeptical or doubtful. What do you mean? You're going to put me to sleep? When are you going to get started? What are you doing? Why is your voice so creaky and dulcet? What are creaky dulcet tones? I say, yeah, those are legitimate concerns, totally. And then I'm not being sarcastic. It's shared by most regular listeners of the show. So let me address a couple of them. But I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're doubtful. That means it's important to you. So that's good. So, oh yeah. So a lot of people share that. So a couple of things to know. Yeah. One, this is a podcast you just barely listen to. So you don't really need to listen to it too much or pay attention. It's a podcast you kind of just passively listen to it, just like when you're pretending. And again, we're here in a safe place, so we could talk about this. Just when you're pretending you're listening during the day, even less effort than that because you don't have to hide it. So you mean I can pretend to listen without pretending to listen? And I say, yeah. Like, how about that? Like you finally the cover is taken off when you put your covers on, you could pretend to listen without pretending, but in a way that has pretend. That's kind of fun. And you say, wait a second, you lost me there, Scoots. I'd say, well, I'm doing my job then. But what I mean is, like during the day, and I'm good at this, unfortunately. It's a strategy I've used my whole life. You say, you make a lot of eye contact. You try to use good body movement. You can sense my body movement even there. Oh, yeah. Oh, boy, you're kidding me. Really? Okay. And then what happened? Okay. Oh, man, she didn't know. Oh. Well, I could see that. I could see how you'd feel like. So that's pretend like it takes other skills. But if you're lying in bed with me, I'm glad you're not listening to me. So you can cut all that other stuff out, and then have the good parts to pretend. You could like when you're playing like kid stuff. You say, oh boy, Scoots, oh boy, pointless meander. Oh, oshkosh bagosh, Scoots, And now if you have a partner or somebody that snores a lot, what if you start doing that? Oh boy. Yep. Just listen to me like that for a while. And they say, what are you doing? You say, I don't know. I was asleep. Was I snoring? And they'd say, no, it sounded like you were saying, Well, I don't know. I was asleep. So maybe that's how I snore. I don't know. And then just wait for them to go. That's a little bit passive, but you could do that. If it's going to help you, it's soothing. Like, can you hear me relax? Oh boy. You're relaxed, huh, Scoots? Okay, you're doing a podcast intro? What are you going to do now? Okay. Yeah, okay. So, what was my you don't need to listen to me. That was my main point. So that's, if you're new, one thing, you don't have to listen. You could just barely listen in a very loose, unfocused way. This is also, I guess it's irony. Like the podcast does not put you to sleep. It's here to keep you company while you fall asleep. So I'm here to walk at your side and tell you a story or just go on and on with an intro as you drift off. And that's the reason the shows are about an hour, is you have plenty of time. You can fall asleep whenever you fall asleep. And if you can't sleep for some reason, I'm going to be here. I'll be here keeping you company to the very end. So that's so it's a podcast you don't need to listen to. It's a podcast that doesn't really put you to sleep, but more keeps you company, and then you fall asleep. So those are two things you might need to know. What else do you need to know? What else? Structurally. This is another thing that can throw people off. Structurally, the show is different, too. It starts off with a greeting, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and friends beyond the binary. Then it goes to that's so you know you're welcome. This is a spot where you're welcome. I'll try to create a safe place. Then there's business. Business about 6 minutes. I don't know. It's 8 minutes. That's what keeps the podcast out twice a week. Then there's an intro, which is from around minute 6 to 8 to minute 20, 22. And the intro is what we're in the middle of here, which is where I over-explain with the pod. For a new listener, you say, what are you doing? The first time most people listen, that's one of the things they say, what is he doing? Actually, what are you doing? I don't know. I don't get this. This is supposed to put me to sleep. This is a very, very common theme. And you say, when's the podcast? I thought you were when are you going to get to that? I say, well, I'll get there eventually. But first I want to explain to you what the podcast is and what to expect. And that takes, about a third of you say, okay, so explaining to me the podcast takes like a third of the podcast. I'd say more or less, sometimes maybe 25%. Yeah, somewhere between 25% and 33%, I would say. Maybe even sometimes 35%. I'm not good with percentages, but I can see it on a progress bar. So, that's the intro. So the intro is the business throws some people off, but the intro really throws people off because a lot of people think it's just part of the business, but it is I'm in the business putting you to sleep and taking your mind off stuff. I'm in the business of making content that you don't need to listen to. So it can be tough at first because you say, okay, I don't understand how to do that. You say, I say, I get it. Your whole life you've been told to put some work. If you're going to pretend to listen, you better pretend you're listening. Like instead of go ahead, pretend listen. That's this is not stuff we're raised to do. For some reason we live in a world where we're raised to pretend to listen to people instead of playing pretend to listen. You say, which is more fun and very soothing. So that's why the intro can throw people off. But it's also just because it takes forever. And you feel like, well, is this ever going to get started? And I say, well, when you're asking that on the second or third time you listen to the show, you'll realize, oh, that's part of it. It takes forever to get started. But for a regular listener, what can happen is after you listen for a little while, you say, well, you know what I like to do is start the podcast before I even get ready for bed, when I'm sitting on the couch with the lights down. Or you say, you know what I like to get comfortable, get in bed, and then press play. Or for some people, they say, well, I like to start it at 3 a.m. when I wake up. Or some listeners listen back to back episodes, times 8 or 9 or 10. So you'll find what works for you. And there's about 2% of people that just skip ahead. They start the show at 20, 22 minutes, or they listen to story-only episodes on Patreon because they don't want the intros. And there's also a percentage of listeners that either only hear the intro or listen to all intro episodes on Patreon over and over and over. Or there's listeners that listen to the same episodes. So there's just so many different ways you'll eventually find. And then maybe you'll adjust and change how you like to listen to the podcast. Maybe it won't work for you, but the intro is kind of a part of that. It's part of ideally, it gives you a chance to wind down and get some distance from the day and start to pretend that you care about what I'm talking about. In any other context, that would sound nearly obscene, right? But in this context, you say, go ahead, pretend like you care what I'm talking about. I hope you barely care what I'm saying. That's how we practice caring around here. And it's the truth. The regular listeners are laughing because they know that's where the heart of this podcast is, and the soul of it is like, I care enough that you don't need to care. You could just say, Scoots, So that's the intro. Then there's business, because that's just how the structure of the business is. Then there's the episode, and then there'll be some thank yous and good nights. So that's the structure of the show. What else do you need to know? Oh, the reason I make the show is because I've been there. Like I said, tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep, all those things. And so if I can help you, it would be my honor, because I know how it feels there in the deep, dark night. Like I said, lately, or at different times, a lot of the time, one of the things that happens for me is this repetitive dreaming stuff. And I don't want to get too deep into it. And sometimes it's like things are going good. And then like lately, then some part of my subconscious or medium conscious is like trying to solve these problems. But it's never in some, these are like the dreams you like, it's in a gray zone. But there's nothing exciting going on. And I don't even know. It's like rote tasks. That's what it is. And my brain was doing it last night. Very much like filing. But it wasn't. It was trying to solve some bigger problem. And I said, holy cow, can we, did we get that figured out? Like I woke up twice. And one of my strategies, it doesn't work for everybody, but lately is get up, go, to visit the WC if needed, but even not, just go for a walk and look out the window or something, then get back in bed. I call it a reset. And sometimes that works. And you could put on the podcast, or maybe it's already playing, so then you could start listening to me again. But one of the reasons I make the show is because I know how it feels, and it's frustrating sometimes. It's frustrating to even have to do a reset. You say, what about that other person? They sleep through the night every night. But not for some of us. It's not easy. So if I can help with that, it's my honor. The other reason I make the show is because you deserve it. You deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve a safe place. And if I can't provide that for everyone, but if I could provide it for you, it'd be great because you'll get the rest you need. You can fully live your life or a little bit more fully. You can be rested. And that's a beautiful thing. So that's another reason I make the show, because I say, well, that'd be pretty nice, helping somebody else out. I know how they feel. Their life will be a little bit better. The world will be a little bit better. So you deserve it. That's why I make the show. Now, it doesn't work for everybody, but thousands and thousands and thousands of people have said, give it 2 or 3 tries. Because it takes some getting used to, because the podcast is so different. And I don't say that because I don't win either way. I don't gain any benefit from people listening to the show. It's like people that are involved with the show. So the only reason I want you to listen 2 or 3 tries is to see if it helps you or not. Because those are real people that support, keep the show going, are the people that it's like a 2-way street. So don't worry about it. I'm not trying to get you to listen to more podcasts for my benefit, other than if it works for you, it's great. And then if not, you say, well, I tried it and I still don't like Scooter. That's a common reaction too. And you see, but then I checked out Sleepy or Sleep Cove or Get Sleepy or Miette's Bedtime Stories, my friend Harris's Sleep Whispers. I checked out another Empty Bowl, and that worked for me. So you could try that too. So I guess that's it. I mean, give the show a few tries. I really hope it can help you. I really appreciate you checking the podcast out. I really yearn and I strive to help you fall asleep. Thanks again for coming by. And here's a couple of ways we keep this show going for everybody. Thanks. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake, whether it's thoughts, things you're thinking about on your mind, feelings, any emotions coming up for you. So things you're feeling, physical sensations. So, anything on your mind, past, present, or future, anything emotionally coming up or physically, whatever's keeping you awake. It could be something else, something you can't quite put your finger on, or someone lying next to you, be it human or in pet form, that's either generating snores, heat, gas, movement. And this is probably something you can only say within the confines of a sleep podcast. But if you're listening to the show, you probably relate to it. And I'll just say it for you because you can't say it in public. You say to that snoring, sweet, sweet one right next to you, your comfort is really making me uncomfortable. Oh, you're resting so sweetly. is really not helping me get any sleep. And it could be, but that's what I'm really here for. I guess I'm making a joke about it kind of, but really that's why I'm here. I'm here to, take your mind off whatever's keeping you awake. So if it's that, you say, man, this is frustrating. How can this person fall asleep instantly and snore like a dump truck while the dump truck's going by right after, you know how it is. But it could also be changes in time, temperature, routine, whatever it is that is keeping you awake. I'm here to take your mind off stuff, to distract you. So what I'm going to do, or what I propose and intend to do, is create a safe place where you could set all that aside. I'm going to smooth it. I'm going to pat it. I'm going to rub it down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'm going to use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones, pointless meanders, superfluous tangents. So I'm going to go off topic. I'm not going to make a whole lot of sense and not get to the point. And I'm going to do all these things so you don't have to pay attention to me and you can fall asleep. Now, if you're a regular listener, thanks again for coming back. I'm so glad I can help you and be here to try to create this safe place for you and really, make it. I hope I'm doing my best to give you a nice, can I pat it, smooth it, pat it, rub it down? You want me to air anything out, move anything around? Do you have any pets I could pet for you? Or you want me to just look at the fish and talk comforting to your fish, your plants, or to you? How about that? You see, pets, fish. That fish got fed 4 hours ago. I see. No, don't worry, fish. I'll talk comforting to. How about I talk comforting to everyone, or just to you? Also, there's no wrong answer. You could say, yeah, forget the fish and the pets and this snoring lumberer next to me. Please just scoot. Can you be here? And I say, yeah, don't worry, I'm here for you. I just said that other stuff because of there's cultural norms I'm supposed to follow. So, but you don't have, that's the best part of this show. You don't have to follow any cultural norms. And so if you're new, this really can throw you off because this podcast is by definition not normal. As Doc Brown once never said, norms, where we're going, we don't need any norms, except for you, Norman McFly, the youngest. This was in Back to the Future, the one that I never wrote. But it's, yeah, he says, norms. Then he said, just you, Norm, hardy har. Or maybe he said it in a way like he said, Norm, you just stay here. But I was meaning social norms. But also I just needed your sister. She's the protagonist of this movie. You're the one, we get a view of in the normal world, Norm. You're supposed to be, for once, Norm, you're a normie. Your role in this story is to stay here. We showed the ordinary world just like every Back to the Future is supposed to open. And then we'll return and see the results of, like your sister's journey into, where we need no norms. Oh, you're doing a sleep pod. Sorry about that. Thanks, Doc. I'll take it from here. So if you're new, a couple things to know. This show could throw you way off, and that's totally normal. So if you're listening at this point and you're wondering what's going on or when I'm going to get to the point or really this is not making any sense, you're right. Or if you're doubtful or skeptical, I would be skeptical too, tuning into a sleep podcast with a creaky dulcet tones and pointless meanders. So those are all valid concerns. Just like Norm's valid concern would be, whoa. How come I would like to time travel? And Doc Brown says, trust me, it never goes as it's supposed to, Norm. So also this is just this car doesn't really, you'd have to, there's not really, it wasn't designed for 3 people. So, Doc, why don't you stay here? And then my sister and I will go. And this could be, maybe instead of the magic, this could be your version. We could make these into children's books. I'm sorry, Norm. I think we're in the middle of a sleep podcast, not a fan fiction within a fan fiction podcast. Oh, you're right. Let me give it back to Scooter then. Thanks, Norm. Thanks, Doc. I'm back. So, if you're skeptical or doubtful, You should be. I mean, that's perfectly normal. A few things that usually help settle down the skepticism, but not always. One is to know you're not alone. Millions of people have listened to this show, or probably a lot more than that didn't like it, and then they just moved on. But of the regular listeners, they've said, hey, it takes 2 or 3 tries to get used to this podcast, and then you kind of start to become a regular listener. At first, you say, well, I'm trying to figure out what's going on, and it's not making any sense. So that's the first thing. The second thing is this is a podcast you don't really need to listen to, so you just kind of barely pay any attention. I guess leaning into this, who's Doc Brown? Oh, boy. Sometimes I make these references, and I'm just so my cultural windows. So there's a movie called Back to the Future, which you may have heard of. You just don't know anything about it. Normal. Of course, I was making an A-double-S out of you, me, Doc, Norm, Lillian, who I think is Norm's sister, but most importantly, you. So, it's a movie about time travel with this quirky doctor. That's who Doc Brown is. Actually, it's just DOC. So I don't know. Anybody listen to DOC and the Doctor? That's another reference. If not, check it out. That's on Spotify. But, so I was just saying, so Doc Brown would be like a deep, interested scientist. So one thing you could do, the idea of not paying attention would be, hey, tell me more about that flux capacitor that you used to power time travel. Well, I get cozy here. Go on and on about all the detail. Oh, boy, can I tell you. I wanted to call it a flux capacitor, but it's actually a time flux capacitor. It's actually capacitors, but I combine them into one unit. So that would be where you stop listening, maybe. So that's kind of the thing with me. You don't need to, you can just barely pay me any attention. The other side of it is, even though this is a sleep podcast, it doesn't really put you to sleep. It just keeps you company. I'm going to be here for about an hour, so you could fall asleep whenever you want or just whenever it happens. But then if you can't sleep or you need me during the day, I'm here to the very end to keep you company. So either way, whether you're awake or asleep, I'm here. The good thing is I'm going to be here whether you're paying attention or not, so you don't really need to pay attention. It's optional. So those are 2 things. The next thing, what are the other things you need to know? I know there's other stuff. Structure the show. Maybe I'll tell you that next just because I forgot what else. I mean, when you have the cast of Back to the Future 9 running around in your head and you wonder, where are they going to go? Like, what is the situation that they have to solve by going to a place where there's no norms? You say, well, they're going into your sleep podcast, Scoots. Tell me about the norms that are, well, one norm of active or, listening. We don't need to follow that here. 2 of paying attention during a story. Don't need to do that. Of listening. Structurally, your show's a little bit different. Yep, you're right. It starts off with a greeting. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and friends beyond the binary, so that people feel seen and they know they're welcome. Then there's, okay, so there's that part. Then there's the business. The business is what enables us to bring you the podcast twice a week. That's like 4 or 6 minutes or something. Actually, lately it's been less than that. But so that's what keeps the podcast going. Then there's an intro that's about 18 to 22 minutes or something. An intro that's 18 to 20 minutes, that doesn't sound normal, does it, Norm? No, it doesn't. Yeah, well, so the intro is like 18 to 20 minutes because it serves a couple of different purposes. One, it introduces the podcast to people that never heard it before, and they get an idea of, oh, boy, what is this thing? It's a bit different. And this person has something like a sense of humor. Almost, they actually do have a sense of humor. They're not humorous. I just realized that term. It's like Scoots is the only person, one of the few people that does have a sense of humor. You see, man, he's not hilarious. He kind of people say that they throw that word around like they know what it means. No offense, but you say, I mean, don't you think so? You like say, you say, I guess it would be, I have more of a scent of humor. You say, it's like you just barely, like, when you barely smell banana sometimes, you say, or maple syrup, you say, okay, I have just a bare scent, or is that a scent of cinnamon in there? That's Scooter. He has a scent of humor. Or also you could say he has a CENT of, you say, yeah, he has about a halfpenny of humor. But he has a bear sense of humor, I'd say. You're right, but that doesn't fit. But that's because something come up with the intro. But for a regular listener, all my regular listeners out there, what up? Like the intro serves a purpose of giving you some distance from the day and helping you slowly wind down and drift off. And so that's kind of, yeah, I mean, it gives you some distance. Like some people start listening before they get in bed while they're winding down. Some people are in bed getting comfortable. So you're just going to have to see how it goes as you become a regular listener. But it becomes part of your wind down routine, whether you're awake or you're asleep or you fall asleep during it, or you become one of the 2% of people that skip ahead to about 22 minutes. So that's the structure. And then there's the intro. Then there's business. That's how podcasting structure works, is that business is kind of the most important business, but that's just how it has to go in the structure of the show. And then there's a story. Tonight we'll be looking back at a famous movie about famous Michael Keaton. I don't know if it was a Michael Keaton vehicle, but oh boy, is it our friend Batal Joussa, as they may have said in France. That great movie, Batal Joussa, or Juego de Beetle Bailey. Yep, oh boy, that movie. So we'll be talking about that and seeing what I can remember from that movie, even though I've seen it recently, like in the last 10 months. And yeah, it's a little break between our TV show coverage. And then at the end of the podcast is thank yous and good nights. So that's the structure of the show. The only other things you need to know is, one, I make this show because I've been there, tossing and turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep. So I want to help. So that's one part of it. And the other part of it is you deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve a place where you could rest and get comfortable. And our world will be a better place. If you're rested and you could flourish, or you just have a little bit better, it's, if your life's better, my life's better. It's really that simple. And if I could help you get the rest you need, that's even better, right? So that's why I make the show, because I've been there. I know how it feels, and you deserve more. And I think that's it. I mean, the rest you'll kind of get an idea of if you're new. I'm glad you're here. I work very hard. I yearn and I strive. I really appreciate you coming by. And these are a couple of ways I'm able to bring you this podcast twice a week. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake, whether it's thoughts you're thinking about, thoughts, feelings, physical sensations. So things on your mind from the past, present, or future, anything physically you're feeling or emotionally you're experiencing, or it could be many, many other things. Changes in time, temperature, work stuff, life stuff, unknown. You say, I don't know. I don't understand. Everything's like, that's the one that, I don't know. That one really gets me every time. I say, I thought I did everything right. But whatever it is, I'm here to keep you company and take your mind off of stuff. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'm going to use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones. You say, what do you say? What are they called? Creaky, dulcet tones, like a creaky. Here's something else that hasn't been glorified on this podcast. Or what do you call it? What does Hollywood do? Glamorize it, right? Here's another thing that just doesn't get the credit it deserves actually, now that we're talking about it, there's a lot of different times this should get good credit. Hopefully I'll remember to come back to it, but creaky floors. Because I was just going to say, when you say creaky, dulcet tones, creaky, like a creaky floor, but dulcet. So it'd be like a creaky floor on your favorite floor or your favorite room or your favorite place to be. Like you'd say, well, you know that spot where we'd get our favorite summer treat? Oh boy, I can just remember 4 steps into that old spot, I'd hear that creaking floor and I'd feel that feeling because I was about to order my favorite summer treat. Not only nostalgia, because I do it in the present day, too. So that would be more of a creaky. That's my new collection of collectibles. Creaky dulcet moments, or creaky moment. Yeah, creaky dulcet moments. The creaky dulcet moment collection. Now not available, or probably won't ever be. Maybe that's what tonight's episode will be about, though. Yeah, let's do that. Creaky dulcet moments, because that'll save me from having to figure it out right now. So, but anyway, so creaky dulcet tones, pointless meanders, which we just went on one, superfluous tangents. So if you're new, really what I'm trying to do is create a safe place where that I can send to you, where you could feel like you could come and visit, or we could share, or just you could use it. It's really like I'm sending it to you. You do what you do. That's the nice thing is you could do whatever you wish with it. This is an adaptable, safe place. And what I mean by that is, well, one form of adaptation is that this podcast does not work for everybody. So some people, they turn it off, or they just say, well, this isn't necessarily helping. Or you might be arriving for the first, second, or third time, doubtful, skeptical, frowny, or your expectations are not being met. And I want to say that is a very legitimate reaction to this podcast, very normal, because like that's what most people feel when they turn this show on. Of course you're skeptical. How many times have you been told something's going to help you fall asleep and it didn't necessarily help you fall asleep? Or doubtful, you say, your creaky dulcet tones and your pointless blathering. I'm just using a strong word for now to make an example. You say your pointless blathering is supposed to put me to sleep, or this nonsense. And I'd say, maybe, we'll see. So if you're feeling that way, that's normal. I want to point that out. Because most listeners, 90-something% of people that listen to the show say it took 2 or 3 tries before I realized the show was for me. So just kind of see how it goes. The podcast is best consumed in a very loose way. So if you're waiting for it to start making sense or start putting you to sleep, kind of pay a little bit less attention, or just, and I don't mean it like, in an active way, like you just kind of tune me out. This is the one podcast you could multitask to. Ideally, you're multitasking by sleeping, but I'll get into how the intro works, because most stuff, you want to be in the moment. And this actually is kind of to take your mind off of stuff so the rest of you can be in the moment, getting comfortable. Because I don't want to encourage you to multitask. I just want to encourage you to not to pay, that you don't have to pay a lot of attention to me. So that's another thing. 1, this podcast isn't for everybody. 2, it's a podcast you really don't need to listen to. You can just kind of barely listen. And 3, this is a bit of out there too. This is a sleep podcast that doesn't really put you to sleep. It keeps you company while you drift off. But I'm more here as your bedtime companion, just talking, than I really am putting you to sleep. You're falling asleep and barely paying attention to me. And the other side of that is, if you can't sleep, I'm going to be here to the very end. I'm here to keep you company whether you're awake or asleep. So if you can't sleep, there's listeners that can't sleep. There's listeners that listen during the day. There's listeners that are going through something and they can't sleep. There's listeners, I'm here. That's why the show's an hour. It's an hour, so you don't have to worry about when you're going to fall asleep, and you also don't have to worry if you can't sleep. You say, well, I got Scoots here for an hour. I got episode after episode after episode if I need it. So that's another part of it. Moving on to the next few things that can throw listeners off is the structure of the show. And this also goes back to the multitasking. Now, regular listeners, they know what I'm going to say. They just don't know the manner I'm going to say it because I change that every time. But this show is structurally very different. It starts off with a greeting, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and friends beyond the binary. And that ideally is to make you feel welcome and seen and invited in. You say, hey, check this out. I got a place set aside for you. But here's the irony. You go ahead and pick it out. Like, there's a place here for you, but you go ahead and pick it out. See what works for you. So that's the greeting. Then there's business, probably like 4 or 6 minutes of business or something like that. That's how we're bringing the podcast to you twice a week, is the people that take action on that. But that's more for regular listeners. If you're new, that's not important. Then we move into an intro, which is about 12 to 20 minutes of me explaining what the podcast is. And those two things can really throw new listeners off because they say, what, like, because I think most of the time they say, what are you getting to the point? Are you just talking about the podcast or is it all business? And I say, well, it's the business of going off topic. The intro, the bedtime story and the intro are kind of like you could separate them, but I'll get into the method. It is adaptable. You could start the show at 20 minutes. Or you could become a patron and listen to story-only episodes. But for the most part, this is what works in some different style for most listeners. So the intro is like 18 to 20 minutes, we'll say. And it's me kind of introducing the podcast to the new listener. But for the regular listener, they get to multitask while I'm doing the intro. Because it eases you into bedtime, lets the day drift away. So for a regular listener, and you could discover what works for you, and you could keep changing it up. Some people are listening as they're getting ready for bed. Some people are doing it as they're getting comfortable. And they're getting settled in. And like some people are knitting, or drawing, or petting their pets, or combing, brushing their hair, maybe they're getting massage, giving massage, foam rolling. Maybe you're making your bed, or, this is something, and sometimes I don't pause to do this, but when I do a pillow reset, no, that's another one that's never come up on this. This is why I do these intros, because this stuff doesn't come up. I don't ever remember glorifying creaky floors before, which I'll do hopefully in this episode. And I also don't remember talking about pillow reset, which is a really important thing in my life, that so many times I'm in such a hurry to get into bed and toss and turn, I don't pause and do a pillow reset, which is one, getting my pillows back in my pillowcases, because whatever I'm doing to my pillows at night, practice kissing and other things, maybe when I'm asleep, I don't know, not when I'm awake. But they get out of their pillowcases, and also, they kind of get de-poofed, and also I have 2 pairs of pillows that I have paired up, which I have talked about before. Mostly I get them in their pillowcases, but I have 2 softer pillows that are, they could go under my head. Now, I know these aren't for everybody, but and then I have 2 that are a little bit firmer that I either will grip into my arm or put under my legs or put over my head, depending on my mood. And I like my pillow temperatures. Like, I like to be able to switch up between the 2 pairs. And that way, I got my options. But what I fail to do a lot of times is I just get in bed instead of doing a pillow reset, and, making it nice. I say, okay, I'm going to get my pillows lined up here before I get in bed, get those pillowcases on. And I don't know why it seems so, if you listen to this podcast, you probably can relate to this. Why then, if I do it before I get in bed, it's easy. But for some reason, I usually skip over it. But if I try to do it once I'm in bed, and even if the lights are on or out, it seems like such a monumental task. I'm like, well, I just got to live with it now. This pillow's halfway outside its pillowcase. I can't possibly put the emotional wherewithal together to deal with this tonight. And I might even, that's when the brain bots start. I might be like, geez, I wish I was the kind of person that really dialed it in before I got into bed, but now it's just too late. I'm stuck with this pillow that's sticking out, and man, isn't it? I mean, if you're listening to me, it's funny, but it's weird that it's true. You're like, just going to have to deal with this. I'm never going to get to sleep now that my pillow is like 1/8 out of its pillowcase. And I can't possibly, I don't know what it is. Like, this is really what it's like for me. I say I can't possibly pause and sit up in bed and realign my pillows unless it's like so great, but I'll be doing it like, it'd be like, I don't even know. Like I would do it with such, like a vigor would be a strong, like light version of the kind of feelings I would be feeling if I actually did sit up and try to rearrange my pillows. It'd be like, I'd be so disappointed. I'd be like, I guess I just got to rearrange these pillows now. What an onerous thing to have to do. So, yeah, maybe tonight, but while you're listening to the intro, you could do a pillow reset, or maybe that's a reminder. You say, okay, that's great, Scoots, because I was just getting ready for bed. I was actually doing my slipper reset where I had my spring slippers, my summer split slippers, which I call splippers, just because, I don't know, I like it. You say, cool. So I forgot. Oh, that's why the intro's so long. To explain what it a long way to the new listener. Why is the intro so long and pointless? Well, there you go. That's why, because I am who I am. So that's why the intro's so long. But it actually, so if you're multitasking, whether you're resetting your pillows or you're petting your pets, maybe you're bombing your elbows, maybe you're kissing your shoulders, whatever it is, you got time to ease into bedtime. So that's the intro. Then there's business between the intro and the episode. Then tonight it'll be some sort of random episode about Creaky Dulcet. Oh, I did the Creaky Dulcet Door collection by Dior. But this is Creaky Dulcet Moments. I guess it would have been at one of those stores that sells things like that. Like where you'd buy, well, I wouldn't buy ornaments there because it'd say those ornaments are too expensive. But you know, not collectibles though. I don't know. You kind of know what I'm talking. A store that sells stuff with moments. A store with moments in the title. So that'll be the episode. Then there's some thank yous at the end. So that's the structure of the show and kind of the things to know coming into it. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. Glad to have you here. And then the other things to know is I make this show because you deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve a safe place. And if I can provide that for you, it's my honor. And the reason it's my honor is because I've been there. Clearly, you just heard what I go through just with pillows. That's just a scratch on the surface. I mean, I don't even think I talked to my therapist about that. I mean, because probably my therapist would have said, well, I would have known that already. Thank you for informing me. But let's really talk, let's actually talk about it. Like, are you sure you're not just filling time now? Did you prepare that, Andrew, before you came in tonight? Just in case you didn't have it, you were not comfortable. And I say, you got me. You really know me well. That's the therapist that lives within me. But I say, Did you practice that in the car on the drive over, just in case there was some dead air in here? And I'd say, yeah, I did. I practiced it on a podcast intro too, months ago. So that actually gives me even more reassurance. I say, well, I'm going to get to use this intro twice, and maybe I'll prep my pillows more. But you deserve a good night's sleep, and I've been there tossing and turning. So I hope I can help. I mean, the only thing is clearly this podcast doesn't work for everybody. I'm a bit different. So just see how it goes. See if it works for you. give it a few tries because I work really hard at Uranus Drive. I really want to help you fall asleep. Thanks again for coming by. And here's a couple of ways we're able to keep this podcast coming out twice a week. Thanks. All right, everybody. It is time to talk about the mattress I sleep in nightly. And tonight's sponsor, Helix. Helix Sleep. Take that quiz at helixsleep.com/sleep. And oh, how do I love my Helix. And not only do I love my Helix, my family members love their Helix. I just stayed at a family member's house, and I saw my nephew Daniel had a Helix. I believe his parents have a Helix Sleep too. So it's just so refreshing to know that I'm not the only one enjoying sleeping on mine. But each one of us is different, right? And that's why Helix offers 20 unique mattresses, including the award-winning Luxe Collection and the newly released Helix Elite Collection. There's mattresses for big and tall sleepers, even a mattress made just for kids. And the way you know which mattress is going to be best for you, the way you sleep, and your body is to take the Helix Sleep quiz and find your perfect mattress in under 2 minutes. That's helixsleep.com/sleep. That personalized mattress is shipped straight to your door free of charge. And Helix knows you want to get to know your mattress, right? And you get to sleep on it in your own home. They offer a 100-night trial and a 10 to 15-year warranty to try out your new Helix mattress. And since everybody's unique and everyone sleeps differently, Helix has different mattress models to choose from, designed for specific sleep positions and feel preferences. There's models with memory foam for pressure relief if you sleep on your side, responsive foam to cradle your body if you're a stomach or back sleeper. And way back when I took that Helix sleep quiz, I got matched with the Helix Dusk. I chose the Helix Dusk Luxe. You know, I sleep on my stomach, I sleep on my side. I like to be cool. I love this mattress. Anytime I travel, I'm counting the days to get home and get in my Helix bed. And Helix is offering up to 30% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners. Go to helixsleep.com/sleep. This is their best offer yet, and it won't last long. With Helix, better sleep starts now. That's helixsleep.com/sleep. Thanks, everybody.